watching TV?
Do you like talk shows?
My pop-up has a TV show called Let's Talk Writing with Vin Dacquino, and today is his 50th show.
My name is Cadence Keeler.
My name is Christian Keeler.
And our pop-up is Vin Dacquino.
He is here today.
Pop-up, let's talk writing.
Well, yeah, let's talk writing. Hi, guys. It's so great to have you on the show and to see you in our shirts, our nice brand new shirts, Let's Talk Writing shirts. So you have some questions for me.
Pop-up, how many books have you written?
9.
What's the first book?
The first book. That's that one right there, if you can grab it for me. This is the first one. It's called Kiss the Candy Days Goodbye. And on this book, there's a picture of a girl. You know what that is?
Our mom.
Yeah, that's right. That's Mommy on there because Mommy's my daughter, of course. And she has been the model for this book. Now, the book isn't really about her. In this picture, she's playing Margaret. Now, Margaret is a girl who is best friends with Jimmy. And Jimmy James is a boy who is very sick. When the book begins, he gets sicker and sicker and sicker, and he's scared because he doesn't know why he's getting sick. Well, finally he faints, and they call an ambulance. And the ambulance comes and picks him up and brings him to the hospital. Well, everybody is scared. Finally, they do some tests, and the doctor says, Jimmy, you have diabetes. Now, that means that Jimmy has a problem, and the problem has to be fixed. And one way is to have injections, shots, every single day. Well, Jimmy, not very happy about that. So he turns to the doctor, and he says, I don't want to be different. And the doctor says, you listen, Jimmy, everybody's different in some way or another. Not everybody's the same. You have to learn how to deal with your difference. Now, do you know people who are different? Yeah, there's a lot of people who are different. That doesn't make them wrong. It just makes them different. And sometimes people who are different are special. Are you special in any ways?
We don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you're special in you play the saxophone. And not everybody plays the saxophone. And Katie, whoa, you could sing better than most children I know. So in those two ways, you guys are special. And you're special because you're my grandchildren. That makes you real special in my eyes. So the first book was Kiss the Candy Days Goodbye. Any other questions?
What's your second book?
Oh, second book. That's a good question. A name that I know you know very well. Sybil Ludington.
Yes.
Do you remember? What did Sybil Ludington do? Yep.
Knocked on the doors with a stick.
Right. She knocked on doors with a stick because who was coming?
The British.
The British were coming, exactly. And that was a real problem because the British were burning Danbury, Connecticut. And her father was a big shot in the army. And her father was called on that night, and a messenger came to the house, and he said, Colonel Ludington, we need your 400 men. The British have attacked Danbury, and they're burning Danbury down. We need your men. And the colonel said, wait a minute. It's 9 o'clock on a Sunday night. My men are farmers, and they're asleep. I don't have anybody to send. What did Sybil Ludington say?
She said that she would do it.
She said she would do it. She said, send me. And her father said, you? I'm not going to send my daughter out there. You could be killed. And she said, Father, look at the sky. The sky is bright red. Danbury's burning. We don't have a choice. You have to send me. Well, he was worried. He was scared. He didn't want to send his daughter, but he didn't have a choice. So he put his daughter on top of the horse, Star, put his stick in the hand. What was the stick for?
knocking on the door.
Yeah, knocking on the doors. So they had to knock on those doors. Well, she went off into the night. It was pouring rain. It was terrible, and it was April. Oh, no. April is a horrible, horrible time because it's cold. And they were so worried about all of that cold. So, didn't matter. Off she went. And she went to each house, banging on the doors. Help, please. You have got to go to my father's house. Bring your gun. We need you. Danbury is burning. We need your help. So she went from house to house to house. And she finally got to the end. And the sun was coming up. She rode all night long. It was so hard for her, but she did it. And when she got there, all the men were scattered in the yard, and they had campfires, and they looked at her. And in those days, when they were excited, you know what they yelled? Huzzah! And all the men yelled, Huzzah! And Sybil was so proud, and the father saw her, and he threw his arms around her, and he hugged her. He was so scared that she wasn't going to be able to come home safe. Any father, I know I would have been scared, father or grandfather, to send a kid out, but didn't have a choice. So what happened was, then the father said, are you okay? She said, uh-huh. And the mother said, I have a big breakfast ready for you. And she said, can I just go to bed? And she was so tired. So she went to bed. Then when she woke up, she ate her breakfast. But while she was sleeping, her father got all the men together, and they went after the British. And they had a real fight. One of the generals, he got killed. They shot him. And another one of the generals, Benedict Arnold, who was a very famous American soldier, who later was known for a traitor. He tried to sell very important papers to the British because he was angry at the Americans. Well, you know what happened to him during that battle?
Died.
They shot his horse while he was on it, and he fell off the horse. His leg got stuck in the saddle. And a British soldier came up to him and said, you are my prisoner. And General Arnold said, not yet, I'm not. He pulled out his gun, and he shot the British soldier, untied his shoe, and got away. Well, that was an amazing battle. And they pushed General Tryon back out to the sea. Then they went home. When they got home, Sybil was so excited because she too thought her father might get killed by the British. Well, he didn't. And he told them all the sad news about General Wooster and about Benedict Arnold, and it became history. And that's why when we go to Carmel, remember? Where did I get this picture? What's at the lake?
A statue.
Yeah, a statue, a huge statue of Sybil Ludington. And around here, she's a hero. Well, Pop-Up is trying to make her a hero everywhere in the world because boys and girls all over should learn Sybil's story. And that's why I wrote The Call to Arms, and then I wrote this book for children, and this book. And remember, I read at the library, and you were there, and I read to children there. And in this book, we talk all about what Sybil did, and we talk about the fact that Sybil, everybody thought that Sybil had 6 children. And teachers were saying, oh, yes, Sybil Ludington had 6 children. You know what? After Pop-Up did all his research, you know what I found out?
She didn't.
She didn't have 6 children. She had 1. And guess who those 6 children were?
Their grandkids.
Yes, her grandkids. And she loved and read stories to her grandchildren, much the way I read stories to you guys. And Sybil wasn't a grandmother. She was a grandmother. So when I wrote this book, I wrote her as a grandmother sitting in a rocking in the rocking chair, telling the story to the children. And there really were 6 grandchildren. And it was kind of a sad story because one of the grandchildren died when she was 15 years old, Mary. And Emily was only 21 years old when she died. But her grandson, Edmund, wow, he was in the Army too. And people loved him in the Army. And one of the things he had to do back in the 1800s when Indians were still around, Native Americans, the Native Americans were out in the fields. They had to go out in the middle to create this fort called Fort Riley. And he brought people there. Well, there were a lot of dangers in Fort Riley. But Edmund Augustus Ogden, who was her grandson, led these people. And everything was okay until people started to get sick. Oh, no. They were dying. And some of the officers left. They said, we're not staying here. We're not going to get sick. Well, her grandson was only 44 years old. And he said, you know what? I'm going to be a hero just like my grandmother. I'm not leaving. I'm staying to take care of the sick people. And he stayed there and he took care of those sick people. Guess what happened? He got sick. He died. And he died a big hero. So Sybil Ludington was not only a hero herself, her grandson was a hero. So Sybil did a lot of good things for a lot of people. Do you know any heroes? Yeah. What is a hero?
Somebody that saves people.
Yeah, someone who saves people and someone who's very brave. And I know that both of you are brave in a lot of ways. And there are a lot of things that are scary. Well, for Sybil too. That night, it was scary. It was pouring rain. The trees looked like monsters with their branches blowing in the wind. And it was so scary. But she knew she could not give up. So she didn't give up. What she did is she went right out there and she rode. She rode. Now, people believe that when she was there, she also saw men in the woods. And those men that are in the woods, scary men, she took the horse and she tiptoed quietly. She went through, and as she went through and tiptoed, she said to the horse, "Shh, please, Star, quiet." And then she rode through, and when she was far enough away, she said, "Giddy up!" And she got on that horse and she rode and rode and rode and rode until she finished. So I wrote 3 books with Sybil Ludington in it. I wrote the Sybil Ludington, this one. Then I also wrote that one and the Call to Arms. But then there was another book. You know about this one. What is this book about besides Sybil Ludington? Hauntings, that's right, ghosts. And we've been in Smalley's Inn together a few times. Did you ever see any ghosts in there?
No.
Thank goodness. But a lot of people said there were a lot of ghosts in Smalley's. So I did some research. And what does research mean?
Like you look it up.
Yeah, I looked it up. I looked up information. And I went there. And I went down in the basement to see if there were any ghosts were really there. And there were ghost hunters, people who look for ghosts and talk to ghosts. And there were some people who said, there are ghosts in there, all right, for sure. Now, we've eaten there a few times. You ever see ghosts there?
No.
Nah, that's a good thing. And what I had to do is I had to find out who the ghosts were. So I talked to a lot of people. And I said, did you see ghosts? Did you see ghosts? Some people said, yes. I heard them and I saw them. And I said, who were they? And somebody said, a 9-year-old girl named Elizabeth. She's a ghost. She's there. And I said, what? And they said, yeah. She wears a long dress from a long time ago. And she walks around in there. And you know what she does? Cadence, you'll like this. When the bus boys, the boys who clean the tables, go downstairs to get things, they said that Elizabeth pulls their apron strings and pinches them and makes them scream and go, ah, ghost! And they run up the stairs and she scares them. And she's like a little pest, not like you. Maybe a little like you. And like when you scare Christians sometimes. Yeah. Well, she's a little girl ghost. So she does things that little girls do. And then people say there's other ghosts in there. Remember George Denny? Yeah, and I talk a lot about George Denny. And what happened to him? Do you remember his story at all?
He was on the side of a building and they hung him.
Yeah, that's right. They had the only hanging ever in Putnam County, and they actually had a trial. And at the trial, they said, "You're guilty. You shot Abraham Wanzer with a shotgun, an old man who was 80 years old. He died, and you did it." Well, there's a lot of people who say, "I don't know if he did it or not. Something is pretty fishy about this story." So, Pop-Pop did what Pop-Pop does. Studied it, investigated, went through, tried to figure out what in the world really happened. Well, there were a lot of things that were pretty strange about this whole story. So that's what I had to do. And then I told George Denny's story in the book. And I'm a writer and an investigator. That's what I do. So let's look. We didn't talk about these three books. And I know, Katie, one of your favorites is
Max's Glasses.
Max's Glasses. And I came to your school and I read it. And you make me read it at home about 20 times. And what is Max's Glasses about? Do you remember?
It's about a guy who doesn't really stay in school.
Yeah.
And he broke a copier. And he doesn't want to tell his mom.
Yeah.
So he brings it to someone. And that's all I can remember.
Yeah, and he breaks his tape recorder, and he brings it to his friend to fix it. And when they go to this house, it's supposed to be a haunted house, and they see a man in there. And the man is their mother's teacher who disappeared years ago. And it turns out he was an inventor, and he invented a time machine and was able to go into the future. And when he was in the future, he made another invention, glasses. And he said, "Max, someday you're not going to have to ever wear glasses again, because in the future we have cured trouble with eyes, and people don't have to wear glasses anymore." Well, any other questions about any of the books before we do a special thing?
What's that about?
This one? This is called Kiss the Candy Days Hello, and it's called a sequel. That means it's the book that follows Kiss the Candy Days Goodbye, which is kind of weird because goodbye comes first and then hello. But a boy writes a story about having diabetes, and his father supposedly wrote the first book, Kiss the Candy Days Goodbye. It was made up, of course, but it's a story about a boy with diabetes who has to go to a camp for children with diabetes to learn how to deal with it. And at the end of the book, he writes a book for his father to show his father how much he appreciates what his father did. Well, now we have a very special part of the show. You know, you were right. We've done 50 shows. 50 shows. And those 50 shows could not happen without a lot of very special people. So one of the things I'd like to do is I'd like the audience to meet some of the people behind the scenes. Some of the people who made this show happen. So, gang, if you can help me out here, let's meet the crew responsible for Let's Talk Writing, people who made this show actually happen. First off, a cameraman who I have a special attachment to. Please meet my wife, Vin Dacquino, at camera 1. Oh, camera 3. Sorry. Hi, Jude. June has filmed a number of shows for us. She's taken the course that the Comcast offers to help the public learn about studios. Our next person is Andy Campbell. Andy has been with me a very long time. He was with me since the beginning of Sybil Ludington. He works at the Mayapack Public Library, and he also took this course to learn how to do cameras to help us get these shows done. So Andy, thank you. Next, we have our back room. And there is David DeRita. David is a local reporter, and a very excellent reporter, and he does some wonderful work. He also works for us in the back room, helping with the graphics. He directs some of our shows. Powerful, wonderful helper. David, thank you very much. Next to David, on audio, is Jeff Slater. Jeff is a member of the Mayapack Writers Group. He is a writer himself, and so is David, actually. But Jeff is doing a wonderful book. Can't wait to see that get out there. But he's also a cameraman, and he also works in our back room. Next to Jeff, to his right, is a very special person. We have Linda Shaw, our producer. Linda came to me about a year ago. This show has now been running a full year. She came and said, Vinny, I have an idea. Why don't we do a show on writing? Well, that was 50 shows ago. Linda has been with us every single one of those shows, helped us get this thing all together, helped us with graphics, helped us with just about everything. So we owe a huge debt of thanks to Linda. Hiding somewhere, Jennifer. Jennifer Hannibal is also a very important part of this show. She works with Comcast. She helps to keep this studio happening. She has been wonderful for us. She's not only wonderful for us, she's wonderful for the community. This show is not the only show on Channel 8. There are several other shows, and Jennifer has helped to get those going. There are also a number of other people who are not here. One person who's a little camera shy, Gil Mail, who's been with us from the beginning. Also an incredible cameraman, also someone we owe a huge debt of thanks to. So Gil, also thank you. And at your request, we're not going to put you on camera, but we wish we could. So there are many people to thank for this show. This show is a show about writers, for writers. The goal is to help people reach inside and say the things they need to say. I know that there are a number of writers out there a little bit afraid, a little bit reluctant. My themes in my book, and one in particular, especially for Kiss the Candy Days Goodbye, is that it's okay to be different. You're not different, you're unique. You're special. And sometimes you need to capture that special thing about you. You need to tell your story. Every single life out there is a book. These children are beginning their lives. They're beginning a novel that needs to be told. Get the courage to say what you need to say. Every week at the Mayapack Public Library, I meet with at least 20 to 25 different writers. Here, every week, we have a writer that we present to talk about baseball, children's books, journalism. I know that there are many closet writers. People who write things, throw them in the drawer, afraid to tell them. Your story is is as important as all those books in that library. Don't be afraid to write. Don't be afraid to show it. Don't be afraid to come on the air. We're looking for writers. Our next 50 shows, and yeah, we're not quitting yet. Our next 50 shows, we'll have 50 more writers. Will you be one of them? We certainly hope so. Christian and Cadence, thank you so much for being here. I know you are both readers, and I know that there's a lot of people out there writing books that you can enjoy. I know that you go to the library, and I know you take out books. You need to keep doing that because readers are leaders. Now, is there anything else you'd like to say to our audience before we go, Katie?
Everybody has a favorite book, and my favorite book is Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing.
Oh, Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. It's a wonderful book. You're right. It was written by Judy Blume, and it's about a fourth grader who has
a brother named Fudge, and he's annoying to him.
An annoying. Now, you don't have an annoying brother, do you? Maybe yeah, maybe no. But I know you love him, and I know that even though sometimes brothers can be pesty, brothers are good to have around, aren't they? And so are sisters, yeah? Well, I am so happy to have both of you here. Proud to have you on camera. Proud to have Mimi on camera too, and Andy, and all the crew who have helped us so much. Thank you for joining us for 50 shows. Stay with us. We are on Comcast every Monday, 7:30 to 8 o'clock, Channel 8. Thank you for being with us, and thank you, crew, for standing by my side since last July. Best wishes, and you stay with us, stay tuned, and we will be back.